4 men and 4 women are spending their first night in Biosphere 2.
In 1991, 8 researchers were sealed inside a futuristic glass complex near Oracle, Arizona, to spend 2 years living in a self-sustaining habitat.
We hope by building Biosphere 2 that we build the first prototype for a total life system that you'd be able to take to another planet.
Tonight we put a fascinating look into our future.
The developers hailed the experiment as a prototype for colonizing space, and it became a media sensation. But not everything was what it seemed.
The people running Biosphere 2 refused to give our NBC cameras access to their property.
Do you have something to hide about the past?
Before long, the project was haunted by a single question.
It looks like something out of science fiction.
Tell me that you'll open your eyes. Tell me that you'll open your eyes. Tell me that you'll open your eyes.
But how much is science and how much is fiction?
Comments are still headed.
What else is on?
Yeah, let's see what else is.
Coming to you now from the largest studio ever constructed, it's The Truman Show!
Yeah! Good morning!
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
What if? No scripts, no cue cards.
Morning, Spencer. How's it going?
What if you were watched every moment of your life?
How many cameras you got there in that town?
5,000.
I believe Truman is the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation.
That's correct.
Get up, get out, get away from these liars, 'cause they don't get your soul or your fire. Take my hand, not your fingers through mine, and we'll walk from this dark room for the last time.
Hey, Max. Lenny Meyer. Sorry, I put it out. So, what do you do?
I work with computers, math.
Math? What kind of math?
Number theory. Research mostly.
No way, I work with numbers myself. I mean, not traditional. I work with the Torah. Amazing! You know, Hebrew's all math. It's all numbers. You know that? Yeah, look. The ancient Jews used Hebrew as their numerical system, man. Each letter's a number. Like the Hebrew A, Aleph, it's 1. B, Bet, it's 2. You understand? But look at this. The numbers are interrelated. Like take the Hebrew word for father. Av, Aleph, Bet. 1, 2 equals 3. All right? Hebrew word for mother, Aim, Aleph, Mem. 1, 40 equals 41. Sum of 3 and 41, 44. All right? Now, Hebrew word for child. All right? Mother, father, child. Yelad. That's 10, 30, and 4. 44. Torah is just a long string of numbers. Some say that it's a code sent to us from God.
My name is Matt Adamson, and I'm the program manager for education and outreach. So what that means for me predominantly is hiring and training our tour guides, and we call them interpretive specialists. These are the people that give public daily tours of Biosphere 2. I oversee our social media. I am responsible for teacher professional development and training here, predominantly during the summertime. So today, being owned and operated by the University of Arizona, we have about 40 acres that includes the Biosphere 2 facility itself, a residential village where we host student and conference groups throughout the year, and then several administrative buildings that are used for office space and other meeting spaces for these conference groups that are here. Within the Biosphere 2 facility itself, we have a variety of wilderness biomes, so this would include things like the tropical rainforest, the tropical ocean, a savanna, a thorn scrub, a mangrove marsh, and a coastal fog desert. We would call those the wilderness biomes. Those, of course, are what visitors want to see when they're here. We also have some exhibit spaces that show what it was like when people were living inside. So an original residence or quarters, one of the apartments, some lab spaces, and then quite a few exhibits for people to see when they're visiting. And then where the farm space was, so when people were living inside, they had a farm area. U of A, we have radically overhauled that space to contain our institutional research project or experiment, which is called the Landscape Evolution Observatory. For roughly 10 years, starting in the spring and summer of 2016, we'll use the Landscape Evolution Observatory to study the movement of water over complex landscapes. So in my opinion, there are two cool things about Biosphere 2. One is physical and one is philosophical. The physically cool thing is the ocean. You know, we have a 600,000 gallon saltwater ocean in the heart of the Sonoran Desert. So we've got the highest ocean in the world, 4,000 feet above sea level. It's pretty cool as far as the physical structure goes. Philosophically, what I like about Biosphere 2 is that it's an inspirational setting. So whether you have teachers coming here for training in the summertime, K-12 students coming here for a field trip with their classroom, this is a dramatic expression of imagination.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's just kid stuff. Check this out, okay? The word for the Garden of Eden, Kedem. Numerical translation, 144. Now the value of tree of knowledge, all right, in the garden, right? Eitz HaChaim, 233. 144, 233. Now you can
Those
take
are
those
Fibonacci
numbers. So,
you know, like the Fibonacci sequence?
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci is an Italian mathematician in the 13th century. If you divide 144 into 233, the result approaches theta.
Theta?
Theta. The Greek symbol for golden ratio, golden spiral.
Wow. I never saw that before.
By the end of the 2-year mission, the Biospherians, in the words of Jane Poynter, had suffocated, starved, and gone mad. The group split into factions, disagreed over scientific goals, and barely spoke to one another.
Well, we did it. We sealed the bad out and the good in. Take a second and look around you. Go ahead. We have everything we've always wanted. We'll want for nothing.
Excuse me. I really love it here.
Thank you.
We have all these beautiful avocados from Mexico, but where are the chips?
I'm sorry?
The chips. The chips are outside.
Why are they outside?
The chips are outside!
I want a Chris Elliott autograph. Hi.
Wait! Please, avocados taste great on lots of things. See? Avocado toast. We can still make this work. Yes.
Oh, Wi-Fi's down.
No.
Avocados from Mexico.
Force field. It's a dome. We're at the edge of the arena.
Welcome to Biosphere 2.
Its design as a prototype for colonizing space has today made Biosphere 2 the world's largest earth science laboratory.
Most laboratory research and growth chambers that you have are something the size of a refrigerator, or you're working outside in a natural scenario where you have all of the variability, but you have very little control capabilities. And Biosphere is this intermediate step.
So we can change the temperature, we can change the humidity, we can change the amount of rainfall to help predict what might happen to rainforest under different conditions.
Since 1996, research conducted at Biosphere 2 has produced nearly 150 papers published in scientific journals. In the late 1990s, researchers from Columbia University used the Biosphere 2 ocean to make the first links between rising carbon dioxide levels, ocean acidification, and reduced coral growth.
Now, one thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go.
And they have it up downstairs. I think they missed some of that beginning.
We're basically translating light that we can't see into light that we can see by applying color like red, green, and blue to the different filters that we have from Webb. And the reason we want to color the images is because there's actually more that you can get, more information that you can get from the image if you see it in color.
So it's a matter of picking and choosing filters and colors that enhance the details and the structure in the image itself.
NASA's Rob Simon made this, and it had wide appeal too. For example, it ended up as the default background on the iPhone.
I didn't even know until I bought an iPhone and turned it on and kind of did a little happy dance.
Simon's job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
The shortest wavelengths of infrared light and assign those blue colors, and then move our way down to green and red as we go to longer and longer wavelengths.
And then we additively combine those together to get our full color image.
To us, the really cool thing was the data set. Up until that point, there was no realistic color map of the globe anywhere.
So the land layer here comes from
the Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectroradiometer aboard Terra.
And the tricky part here was the weather.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it was a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
But there is a lot of aesthetics that are involved in this. And painstakingly going through and cleaning these images up with an attention to detail, a level of detail like at the pixel level in every image.
So when I'm working on the astronomical data, it is this sort of marriage between art and science. When you're choosing colors for the filters, you really are trying to show the different details and the processes that are happening in astronomical images. But at the end of the day, you want it to be very compelling. You want it to be very beautiful because space is beautiful.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
That's like that series you find in nature? Like the face of a sunflower?
Wherever the spirals.
You see this math everywhere.
A couple of years ago, I was asked to do a Bible study group. I'm thinking Catholics don't do Bible studies, you know. And to do a Bible study group in Houston. I'm going, Catholics definitely don't do Bible studies in Texas. To do a Bible study group in Houston with a bunch of astronauts. Astronauts, oh, I could do that, yeah. So I wound up at a dinner evening of about 12 couples, all of them astronauts and spouses. One of the guys, half of them were Catholic as it turns out, so much for Catholics not doing Bible studies. One of the guys came up to me and said, you know, I just want to let you know, I believe in the absolute truth that creation was made in the 6 days just as described in the book of Genesis. And that's my religion. I just want to let you know that ahead of time. And I'm thinking, you know, have you actually read Genesis? Where it says the world is flat and it's covered with a dome and there's water above and below the dome, you know. Where does the shuttle go? How come you don't get wet? But then he told me a little bit more. He said, you know, before he was an astronaut, he was a test pilot. Test pilots, you don't want to have the habit of creatively reinterpreting their written instructions. And that's true of computer programmers, and that's true of engineers in general. These are people whose world depends on them literally interpreting the material that they've been given. And so to them, the Bible is just another owner's manual, because that's the way they view the world. Whereas in the ancient world, you know, what are the oldest books we have? The Iliad, the Odyssey, they're poems. They're books of poetry. And the world was interpreted in terms of metaphor and simile. And of course, the crazy thing is, science itself is metaphor and simile.
Say or mean you're in math class and your teacher's talking about, well, who knows what your teacher's talking about. Probably a good time to start doodling, and you're feeling spirally today, so yeah. Oh, and because of overcrowding in your school, your math class is taking place in greenhouse number 3, plants. Anyway, you've decided there's 3 basic types of spirals. There's the kind where as you spiral out you keep the same distance, or you could start big but make it tighter and tighter as you go around, in which case the spiral ends. Or you could start tight but make the spiral bigger as you go out. The first kind is good if you really want to fill up a page with lines, or if you want to draw curled up snakes. You can start with a wonky shape to spiral around, but you've noticed that as you spiral out it gets rounder and rounder. Probably something to do with how the ratio between 2 different numbers approaches one as you repeatedly add the same number to both, but you can bring the wonk back by exaggerating the bumps and it gets all optical illusion-y. Anyway, you're not sure what the second kind of spiral is good for, but I guess it's a good way to draw snuggled up slug cats, which are a species you've invented just to keep this kind of spiral from feeling useless. This third spiral, however, is good for all sorts of things. You could draw a snail or a nautilus shell, an elephant with a curled up trunk, the horns of a sheep, a fern frond, a cochlea, and an inner ear diagram, an ear itself. Those other spirals can't help but be jealous of this clearly superior kind of spiral. Better draw more slug cats. Here's one way to draw a really perfect spiral. Start with one square and draw another next to it that is the same height. Make the next square fit next to both together, that is, each side is length 2. The next square has length 3. The entire outside shape will always be a rectangle. Keep spiraling around, adding bigger and bigger squares. This one has side length 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and now 21. Once you do that, you can add a curve going through each square, arcing from one corner to the opposite corner. Resist the urge to zip quickly across the diagonal if you want a nice smooth spiral. Have you ever looked at the spirally pattern on a pine cone and thought, hey, sure are spirals on this pine cone? I don't know why there's pine cones in your greenhouse. Maybe the greenhouse is in a forest. Anyway, there's spirals, and there's not just one either. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 going this way, or you could look at the spirals going the other way, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Look familiar? 8 and 13 are both numbers in the Fibonacci series. That's the one where you start by adding 1 and 1 to get 2, then 1 and 2 to get 3, 2 and 3 to get 5, 3 plus 5 is 8, 5 plus 8 is 13, and so on.
Newton's equation for the fall of a rock due to the laws of gravity is a poem. It says the path of this falling rock is like the solution to this equation. It's not that they're the same thing. And you know, the sad thing of that statement about evolution being proved, evolution is not going to be proved. Nothing in science is ever proved. Science describes. It doesn't prove.
Think that instead of starting with 1 plus 1, you should start with 0 and 1. 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, and it continues on the same way as starting with 1 and 1. Or I guess you could start with 1 plus 0, and that would work too. Or why not go back one more to -1, and so on. Anyway, if you're into the Fibonacci series, you probably have a bunch memorized. I mean, you've gotta know 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. Finish off the single digits with 8, and ooh, 13, how spooky. And once you're memorizing double digits, you might as well know 21, 34, 55, 89, so that whenever someone turns a Fibonacci number, you can say, happy Fib birthday. And then, isn't it interesting that 144, 233, 377, but 610 breaks that pattern, so you'd better know that one too. And oh my goodness, 987 is a neat number, and well, you see how these things get out of hand. Anyway, 'tis the season for decorative scented pine cones, and if you're putting glitter glue spirals on your pine cones during math class, you might notice that the number of spirals are 5 and 8, or 3 and 5, or 3 and 5 again, 5 and 8. This one was 8 and 13, and one Fibonacci pine cone is one thing, but all of them? What is up with that?
Science describes. It doesn't prove. I've got 2 really thick books on my shelf back in Castor Gandolfo. One of them is a Bible, and the other is a book by Misner, Thorne, and Wheeler called Gravitation. And this is, about that thick, and it's all about Einstein's general theory of relativity. The Bible's 3,000 years old. The Gravitation book is 25 years old. The Gravitation book is out of date. It's obsolete.
What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question.
I don't know.
Nobody in the entire world knows why that falls.
So what is pushing this?
Here. Why does that fall?
Newton didn't know.
We can describe it pretty accurately, but no one knows why.
We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. We can measure it, predict with it.
I don't need a computer to get a kid interested in that. To spend a week playing with gravity and trying to understand it and come up with reasons why.
So what is pushing this?
I don't know.
Nobody knows why.
So Newton simply threw his hands up and said, I don't know. So I'm going to invent something called gravitational pull.
Science books go obsolete. They're supposed to. 1,000 years from now, our science, our understanding of evolution, our understanding of the solar system, our understanding of the Big Bang is going to be completely different than what it is now. I hope.
Are you saying, though, that then the problem is that on one level, science is dominated by these kind of fundamentalist techies who can't read a text other than in a fundamentalist way?
There is an element of that. I wouldn't say it's dominated by it.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing is, most religious people are not art creationist fundamentalists. Most evangelicals are not. But those are the ones you see on TV.
In the meantime, they are images that inspire, educate, and sometimes just make us say, wow.
Yeah.
Over the years, NASA has given us spectacular photos and renderings that reveal a colorful and mysterious universe.
No doubt. And now Chris Martinez is introducing us to two of the artists behind some of the most iconic space art in the galaxy.
In a small, bright office, working side by side.
Let's see.
Robert Hurt and Tim Pyle bring the universe to life.
What we're doing does have real science underlying it.
Robert is an astrophysicist turned artist. Tim, once a Hollywood animator, is now a planet illustrator. Together, they produce some of NASA's most popular images, from renderings of how planets light years away could look to actual photos of stars and galaxies captured by NASA's powerful telescopes.
And this is sort of how it comes to me. And then
Many of those images have a dark, grainy start, but color and light reveal an astonishing glimpse of how the deepest regions of space might appear to the human eye.
What I'm trying to do is show people sort of the broader colors that the universe has to offer.
It's a delicate blend of imagination and data. The artists meet with NASA scientists over many drafts to ensure a planet or galaxy's look lines up with the research to make each one as accurate as possible.
I love the challenge. It's kind of like a puzzle to me of trying to create something that looks really cool within the restrictions that were given by the scientists.
It can take days, even weeks, to produce just a single image. The dazzling final results, enough to keep us all dreaming of the final frontier for years to come. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Pasadena, California.
The artists also say they have to be especially careful when it comes to illustrations of other planets to avoid colors many of us would associate with Earth, like blue for water.
This pinecone has this wumpy, weird part. Maybe that messes it up. Let's count the top. 5 and 8. Now let's check out the bottom. 8 and 13. If you wanted to draw a mathematically realistic pinecone, you might start by drawing 5 spirals one way and 8 going the other. I'm going to mark out starting and ending points for my spirals first as a guide, and then draw the arms. 8 one way and 5 the other.
There's a conspiracy to hide this information that DNA is a Fibonacci, is an exemplification of a ratio sequence called the Golden Ratio, the ratio that proves the existence of intelligent design, or the reality of intelligent design of the cosmos. I mean, if you go to the Golden Ratio site for Wikipedia too on the same theme, they don't mention any of this stuff in nature that we're going to talk about here, that we talked about on the show 2 days ago, and that we're talking about here. They talk about how it's found in architecture and math and all this kind of stuff. They don't discuss it how it's found in the measurements of the human arm. Why not? It's just, I mean, well, I think that's the point here. I think that just made sense to me, thinking this through as I say it to you. It has to be a conspiracy. How could all of this be overlooked, and how could Wikipedia leave it out? It can't be. There has to be somehow that big money has pushed their influence somehow, and they've had a drive to keep this covered up or something. These can't all be coincidences, and since they're doing that with everything else, it has to be the case that there's some movement to keep this stifled. I mean, why isn't? And here's another piece to add to this. Why isn't this in our education system? We learn all this junk geometry, pea-brain stuff when you take geometry in high school, and they don't teach you about any of this, the Golden Ratio everywhere in nature. I went through elementary school, high school, college, undergrad degree in college, master's degree, and halfway through PhD, and never was any of this mentioned. and we know who controls the universities, the big money behind it, all the way up to the Illuminati Nephilim controllers. So this can't be. This is planned, okay? And you just wonder. It's got to. I mean, I'm almost concluding here in my mind this Davidson College site showing up #1 in Google all the time and first page, and Wikipedia having these strange measurements which don't correlate with all kinds of these examples from academic sites I'm finding. I'm putting them all pictures of the screenshots in the newsletter. It's got to be a conspiracy. I mean, we could keep going compiling the evidence; it would just all lead to it. So, and if we could keep compiling evidence of it being a conspiracy, I mean, everything points towards it. I'm just throwing ideas off the top of my head. These strange sites show up at the top. Wikipedia is wrong. It's covered up completely in the best-selling books about the golden ratio, which come from wealthy university professors. It's the universities and the education, government-controlled education system absolutely covers it up. You see how, I mean, everything's falling in the same direction. You know, so when everything, all these conclusions point to the same direction, that it's covered up and hidden.
I was talking with the gentleman from Belcom, and we were discussing the lie. Everything he was telling me was different from what we were being told was the truth. And at one point I asked him, I said, man, you guys, you lied about a lot, didn't you? And instantly he said, no, we didn't lie about certain things. We lied about everything. None of it was true. I really don't think people realize how deep the lie goes.
Space, the final frontier.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Ground control to Major Tom. 7, 6. Commencing countdown, engines on. 7, 6, 5. Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to know you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in a most peculiar way, and the stars look very different today. For here am I sitting in a tin can.
Uplifting Arizona and inspiring imagination. Kids at the Crayola Experience got an out-of-this-world experience when a real astronaut came to visit. ABC 15's Jordan Bonke is hearing from the little Earthlings and an astronaut.
Hello? That's what 4-year-old Freddie planned to say upon meeting a real-life astronaut on Tuesday. It's a good place to start, given that that's what he hopes to be when he grows up.
They see aliens.
He's using his imagination to envision what it's like to live in space. John Schaffner did the same thing when he was in grade school, turning trash cans into space capsules and art assignments into frames of astrology. After all, he too wanted to be an astronaut when he grows up.
You know, as much as I aspired to that at the time, for some reason I didn't pursue it to completion.
John realizes the distractions to deter a childhood dream could seem as vast as space these days. He's on a mission to encourage young minds to use their imagination. And from there, he says, possibilities are endless.
When we encourage that, then we see what the real person is. And then we can begin to teach to that.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
They are new and breathtaking images of God's creation that scientists are now studying very closely. Last week, the world was amazed as NASA's James Webb Space Telescope revealed the sharpest and deepest infrared picture of the distant universe so far. Brother Guy Consolmagno, the director of the Vatican Observatory, knows many of the scientists who built that telescope. He joins us now from Rome. And Brother Guy, thanks for being here.
It's a delight to be here and share this stuff.
Absolutely. So this telescope has been called our golden eye in the sky. What does it reveal about the expansiveness of the galaxies, and how much more is there to discover?
Well, it's got a bigger mirror than Hubble did, and it's looking in wavelengths that Hubble wasn't able to see before. In particular, with the infrared, you can see through dust, you can see farther back in time, and so it's already discovered galaxies older, closer to the Big Bang than even Hubble was able to see. And it's that data that really give us not just the pretty pictures, but the way to interpret the pictures and understand what's going on in them.
Just amazing. So everybody's wondering, can these images actually prove God's existence?
Of course not. God is not something you prove. God is something that you accept on faith, and with your faith in God, then you have the courage to ask questions about God's universe.
All right, but you've said the universe is logical and beautiful. What do these images show us about God's creation and everything He set into motion?
Well, you know, our basic story of creation, Genesis 1, started with a cosmologist 2,500 years old, a flat Earth. But what Genesis adds is the thought that God deliberately made the universe as orderly as day follows night in a way that any one of us can understand. And the pinnacle of creation in Genesis was the seventh day, was the Sabbath, was the day when we get to stop worrying about what are we going to eat for lunch and instead think about this creation and the God who made it. And that's just an extension of what we're doing with the Webb telescope.
Right. Now, the Vatican's observatory began in 1582. How do advancements in science like these prove that science and faith in God can coexist?
Well, science began at the universities, the medieval universities, where people like Thomas Aquinas and St. Albert the Great were able to first ask questions about God's universe, because it is the church and its faith in a creator God that gives our culture the excuse to do science. What's more, you'll find that all through the history of science, the great scientists have generally been people of deep faith. The Big Bang that we're illustrating with the Webb telescope was devised by a diocesan priest, Georges Lemaitre from Belgium. And the idea that you have to somehow be an atheist to be doing science, that's a lie. The history is just that it's not true, including the dozen of us, all Jesuit priests and brothers, here at the Vatican Observatory.
President Trump, who attended Fordham, a Jesuit university,
came face to face today with the first Jesuit pope. The rest is history, witnessed by Major Garrett.
President Trump spent 30 minutes with Pope Francis at the Vatican and introduced him to First Lady Melania and daughter Ivanka. On Twitter, the president called it an honor of a lifetime that renewed his commitment to peace.
He is something. He is really great. We had a fantastic meeting and we had a fantastic tour. It was really beautiful.
Today we witnessed a return to Biosphere 2 more than 30 years after the first space simulation experiment at that facility. Now the 4-person crew was sealed in an airtight pressurized enclosure.
News for Tucson has been there all day covering this new mission to create conditions humans might encounter on the moon and Mars. Our Lupita Murillo is live and has the latest from Biosphere 2. Lupita.
We're standing in an area known as the Mars Yard. We've been given special access to this area just for the afternoon. And the Mars Yard is located right next to SAM, where the crew is sealed in. SAM stands for Space Analog for the Moon and Mars. It's called the Mars Yard because the sandbox that you're seeing here simulates the terrain on Mars. Spacesuits, tools, and rovers need to be tested here before they go to a faraway planet. These 4 crew members will be calling the Space Analog for Moon and Mars, also known as SAM, home for the next 6 days. There are 3 women and 1 man sharing living quarters. It's all compact, complete with kitchen, a greenhouse, and a workshop.
They're going to be testing ideas, concepts, running experiments to help better inform us when we want to become an interplanetary species. We want to go back to the moon and Mars, but what is it going to take?
That's what Dr. Iman Jahanger and the crew hope to answer.
This is a historic mission. I mean, there's not many opportunities to be staying in this facility, staying in the only hermetically sealed and pressurized facility in the world, and to be able to do it this crew where we're working on accessibility.
Kai Stotz is the director of research. He designed the test site, raised the funds, and led the team to build it.
Before we go to live on the moon or Mars, we have to learn first how to live inside these confined spaces with both our technology and plants in order to survive long-duration missions on other planets.
Brilliant.
What if everyone you knew was pretending?
Hi, honey. Look what I got at the checkout. Dishwasher safe.
That's amazing.
What if your world was make-believe?
Cue the sun. While the world he inhabits is counterfeit.
I'm not allowed to talk to you.
That's how I look. Not your type. There's nothing fake about Truman himself.
What if you didn't know it? Until now.
A lot of strange things have been happening. Stand by ring cam.
Is he looking at us?
Does he think he knows? I think I'm mixed up in something. Something big. We accept the reality with which we're presented.
You know, I was thinking about this. It was 50 years ago when I was a student at MIT, first beginning to study planetary sciences. And if I had known then how much we'd learn in 50 years, I would have been amazed.
Yeah.
I only wish I could be around for the next 50 years. I think even with the web, we'll be able to measure the chemistry of atmospheres around planets, around other stars, and maybe even find evidence that there's life on them, though I don't think we'll be able to talk to that life, but we'll know it's there. If it's there, that'll be exciting. We'll be able to test our ideas about how the universe was made, because we can see back to practically the very beginning of the universe. And every time we've done that, we've not only learned that what we had thought was right, but that there's more going on than we even ever could have thought. So that's why we're doing it, because we don't know what we're going to find out.
It's absolutely fascinating. Director of the Vatican Observatory, Brother Guy Consolmagno, thanks so much for joining us.
Everybody's pretending, Truman. Get out of here. Come and find me. Truman? Truman! Truman!
Anything happen?
No.
You may find yourself in another part of the world.
Feels like the whole world revolves around me. Everybody seems to be in on it. I'm going away for a while.
You may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. You may ask yourself, how did I get here?
I'm not in on it, Truman, because the last thing that I would ever do is lie to you.
Fade up music. That's our hero shot. He's gone.
Okay? Yes! Want to do it again? No!
Find him. Truman, where are you going?
You can do it.
How do we stop him? Give me some lightning.
Is that the best you can do?
Cut transmission! I like your pen. I was wondering that myself.
Jim Carrey. The Truman Show. Watch what happens.
Oh, how amazed were you to see your roadster up there with Starman just cruising along with the Blue Planet? And how long will we be getting live views, do you think, from the car?
Well, I think it looks so ridiculous and impossible. And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly. Yeah, I think it's important to have a future that is inspiring and appealing. I mean, I just think that there have to be reasons that you get up in the morning and you want to live. Like, why do you want to live? What's the point? What inspires you? What do you love about the future? And if we're not out there, if the future does not include being out there among the stars and being a multi-planet species, I find that it's incredibly depressing if that's not the future that we're going to have.
These stars, the hosts of heaven, God's creation, the ones, each star has its name, as it says in the scripture. God says, I have named them all. These are the eyes. These are the eyes on the wheels. Our stars. I just can't help but to quote from Isaiah 40:26. Lift up your eyes on high, and behold who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number. He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one faileth. This is what people have been missing this whole time, and it's been right in front of our faces in the scripture. This is what God was showing Ezekiel. The wheels within the wheels are the belts that surround Earth. NASA calls them the Van Allen belts. These are the invisible belts of magnetic energy within the torus that keep everything in motion, everything moving like a fine-tuned clock. All the eyes that Ezekiel saw was the stars. All the stars are created by God. They are the luminaries. That is what makes up all the eyes that is being spoken of. What Ezekiel saw was the absolute pure beauty of our home that God created for us. This is what Satan wants you blinded to. This is the absolute magnificence that Satan doesn't want you to see. This is why they mockingly show you that image in Game of Thrones and other movies, the wheels within the wheels over the flat plain earth. They're showing you the truth right in front of your face, and they laugh because you don't understand and you don't see. This is the beauty, this is the sheer absolute beauty of the world that God created, and he called it good. Now that you have eyes to see and ears to hear, now let me tell you this. These wheels that we see, these bands that move like a clock, this is how the sun and the moon do what they do. This explains their movements. It's all about magnetic energy. It's all about the magnetic fields. This is how they're frictionless and how they move in perfect unison. And just as it states in the book of Enoch, through the movement of these wheels, we see how the sun and moon will go through their vaults and rise and return in different areas. This is what the globe has blinded people to. The absolute truth of what God said all along. It has been here the whole time in the scriptures.
there's Fibonacci numbers in pine cones, but are there Fibonacci numbers in other things that start with pine? Let's count the spirals on this thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The leaves are hard to keep track of, but they're in spirals too, of Fibonacci numbers. What if we looked at these really tight spirals going almost straight up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. A Fibonacci number. Can we find a third spiral on this pine cone? Sure, go down like this, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. But that's only a couple examples. How about this thing I found on the side of the road? I don't know what it is. It probably starts with pine, though. 5 and 8. Let's see how far the conspiracy goes. What else has spirals in it? This artichoke has 5 and 8. So does this artichoke-looking flower thing. And this cactus fruit does too. Here's an orange cauliflower with 5 and 8, and a green one with 5 and 8. I mean, 5 and 8. It's actually 5 and 8. Maybe plants just like these numbers, though. Doesn't mean it has anything to do with Fibonacci, does it? So let's go for some higher numbers. We're gonna need some flowers. I think this is a flower. It's got 13 and 21. These daisies are hard to count, but they have 21 and 34. Now let's bring in the big guns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 17, 20, 24, 42, 53, 54, 55. I promise this is a random flower and I didn't pick it out specially to trick you into thinking there's Fibonacci numbers and things, but you should really count for yourself next time you see something spirally.
Instead, we choose to listen to NASA. Instead, we choose to listen to the idiot box. Instead, we choose to listen to scientists, and we heap amongst ourselves teachers that teach us absolute lies to keep us in the dark, when God's been saying the whole time, just look up. Look up at what's around you. I made this for you. That's all God wanted to say. Just take a look. I'm here. I am right above you. Take comfort knowing that when you step outside and gaze up into that starry wonder of God's creation, just know that our Father in heaven is sitting up there right now, staring down at all of us, watching our every move. He knows everything that's going on down here. He has not missed anything. And just know and be comforted by the fact that our Father is right there, and He's been there this whole time. This is something that the world and NASA and the scientists can never take from us, ever. Even the lying powers and signs of Satan that are coming, the lies of the fallen angels and the lies of the world that are going to be ever increasing, will still not rob this from my heart, and they will never rob from me my faith in Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords.
My soul loves Jesus. My soul loves Jesus. My soul loves Jesus. Bless His name. My soul, it loves Jesus. Oh, yes it does. Oh, yes it does. Oh, yeah, my soul. My soul. Over in the midnight hour, my soul. He speaks to my soul, tells me everything is gonna be all right. My soul, it loves Jesus.